Hello and welcome to the DynamicsCon conference. My name is Steve Endow and I'm a Microsoft MVP.
And my name is Tanya Henderson, and I am a senior consultant for Business Central and Great Plains.
And today we'd like to share with you our thoughts on real-world uses for the Business Central API, specifically for the non-developer. So what is an API? The abbreviation API refers to Application Programming Interface, and this is traditionally a tool used between two different programs to allowing them to communicate. Nowadays, we have what are called web APIs or web services. And what's nice about these is they have now become accessible for end users, so it's not just for programmers anymore. So these new web APIs provide new opportunities. They are accessible to non-programmers, and they also allow companies and software developers to build data connectors that allow end users to more easily access system data with security. And the Business Central APIs also allow users to access Business Central data from applications such as Excel, Power BI, and the Power Platform. So why should you care about Business Central APIs? Well, we're going to show you how you can retrieve data directly from Business Central. You can avoid manual downloads or having to save data manually to Excel. And we'll show you how you can use the APIs to work with data in Excel, Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. And Tanya is also going to show you how you can create refreshable reports outside of Business Central.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. So what I'm going to show is I'm going to show within Excel how you will connect to the API and then see the data, and obviously use the data with pivot tables or any other charting that you would like to do inside of Excel. And then I will also show you kind of the same connection with Power BI. And so again, how you can connect to that data. And so as Steve said, what can I do with that data? Well, once I get that data into Excel, again, I can use that for charting or doing KPIs, dashboards, or whatever I want to do with that data in Excel. I'm not necessarily pushing that data back into Business Central. However, I'm just reporting on that data. So it's different than the edit in Excel and open in Excel option that you see inside of Business Central. And then we will also look at, again, the Power BI side. So the question that we would have is, where do I find these APIs? So when you're in Business Central, you will find a page in there where you can go and search web services. And so that will show you a list of the Power BI web services or queries and some of the page areas. So if you're inside of Business Central and you look at some of the list pages, those are some of the APIs that you would see available, such as vendor ledger entries, or like I said, the Power BI dashboards, and some of that you can see when you go there. So you're just searching for web services inside of Power BI, and that will get you to the page that you're looking for. And then you can copy those APIs into Excel and or Power BI. So what you would do is getting that API in Excel. So as you can see, I would go into Excel and go into Get Data from other sources, and then you'll see an OData feed option there. And what you will do is you will post that option into the API, as you can see in the screenshot below. And if you see there, I have vendor ledger entries there. So that's one of the pages that I would be looking for. Now, I may need to also get my company identification. If you notice, I'm looking at Kronos in this particular instance. And so that API is actually showing the company and then what the company ID is. And then I can see the actual page that I'm trying to get to. And I'll show you an example of how to get your company identification. And so once you put the API in there, you will be able to just say, okay. And then what will happen is it will bring up your next box and ask you to sign in. So what you'll want to go to is your organizational account. You'll choose sign in at the top and connect. And then the next option will be seeing your data. So I will then have all of my data in Excel, just like you would use with Power Query. So now I can transform that data. I can, choose columns, change date formats, any of that information. So now I have the power of Excel at my fingertips. Now the options that you'll have in Power BI will actually be a little slightly different. So in Power BI, I can go ahead and connect to the data like I did with the OData on the Excel. So I can do the exact same thing in Power BI. Or I can go into Power BI, just say that I want to connect to the data. And then from there, I can choose other sources. You will see an option of there for Dynamics 365 Business Central that will be available off to the right. When you choose that, you will then at the bottom just choose connect. You may get an option to then sign in, which you would again choose organizational account and sign in. And then that's when you should see all of your options available there. If you're doing it that way, you may not necessarily see the web APIs like you did in Excel, because I'm not having to choose a specific one. I can see all of the ones available just right there in that particular screen. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a demo so I can show you how you can find your company information and where you can get that data in Excel. So now I'm in Excel. And so I actually already have that vendor ledger entry associated here. So I have that web API there. But I'm going to go ahead and just start another API. And this is where I can, again, go up to get data from other sources. And then I can go to my OData feed. And so you'll notice that the web API is not in this particular window. I've actually gotten the API so that I can paste it in there. But if I wasn't sure what the API was, I could go into Business Central. So now what I'm going to show you is how you can find those APIs inside of Business Central. So I'm currently logged into Business Central in the Kronos company. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the right-hand corner and do my lookup. And then I'm going to type in web services. And then I will see that listing of web services that I was talking about. So what you will see in the very beginning, where I have these queries here, this is where I will see those Power BI queries. If I'm looking for other queries inside of the system, this is where I could go in and type in something that I might be looking for, such as vendor ledger entries. And now I can see that there's an API over here, and then I could copy this, and you'll see here at the top that that's my vendor ledger entries. So that's one of the APIs that I would be able to use. You can also see that it has my company designation there as well, okay, because I'm in Kronos. Okay, so I'm going to cancel that for just a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and hop into Excel. So as I'm in Excel, I'm going to go up to File. Whoops, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to Data. I'm going to go into Get Data from other sources, and then from OData feed. Now I've actually copied my URL, so I'm going to go ahead and just paste the URL in here because I'm looking for my company identification. So I've pasted that in. I'm going to go ahead and choose OK. And then now I've seen my data. I was already logged in, so it didn't ask me for my organizational account. But now I am logged in, and I can see here, this is where my company identification is. So if I'm looking to just get that ID, that's a very simple way that I could do that. And then of course I could transform that data or load that data, and now I have that data in Excel. And you'll see that load in just a moment. Okay, and there's my data. And so now I could do whatever I wanted to do with that data. And I have actually kind of pre-done one up. So this right here is looking at the vendor ledger entries. So this is where I can see that I have the data already in Excel, and I've just connected that data. If I'm wanting to clear this or see where this data is coming from, I can go into Get Data, Data Source Settings, and I can see here, this is that API. This one actually is looking at general ledger entries. Okay. And then of course, if I wanted to clear that or change source or edit the permissions, I would be able to do that in this particular window. Okay. So that's how I can get some data into Excel and I can build my charts. The other option that I've spoken about was in Power BI. So in Power BI, I can go up to Get Data. Again, if I don't see it there, I could use the OData feed, just like I did in Excel, or I can go into More, and then I should get an option for Online Services. So if I click on Online Services, you'll notice off to the right that I have an option for Business Central. So now I can just click on Business Central, and I can choose Connect. You'll notice on the left-hand side that I do have my production tenant. If I had a sandbox there, I would see it as well. But I can just choose production, and then I can see my companies available. And then as I open that up, I can now see all of those KPI or APIs that are available. And then of course, if I wanted to click on one so I can see the data, I can now see the data off to the right. And of course, I can select multiples if I needed to. And again, I could transform or load that data. And so that's how simple it is to just connect to the data inside of Business Central from either Excel or Power BI.
Great, thank you very much, Tanya. And now I would like to talk about how you can use Business Central APIs in Power Automate and Power Apps. And if you haven't heard of them before, Power Automate is a tool that allows you to automatically retrieve and automate tasks using Business Central data. So if you need to pull a list of customers out of Business Central and email that to your sales manager, that is something that Power Automate can do automatically for you. And Power Apps is another application in the Power Platform family that allows you to build visual applications that work in a web browser or in a mobile device. So let's take a look at what those look like. And so here I have some screenshots of what is called a Power Automate flow. And a flow is something that you build based on a sequence of steps, a trigger, a timer, a manual button click that you want to perform. And once that trigger is activated, it performs the steps that you want it to, including retrieving data from Business Central, compiling it, transforming it, saving it, or emailing it, for example. Power Apps, as I mentioned, allows you to create an application. And not only can it be a web-based application, but it can also allow you to build a native mobile application that users can use to access your Business Central data. And the Power Apps application can both retrieve Business Central data and update Business Central data if desired. Now, Power Apps does have built-in connectors that allow you to connect to your Business Central tenant and view the API endpoints, as we call them, that represent the different types of data that can be retrieved from Business Central. Once you connect to Business Central via the API endpoints, you can create a model-driven app, which is like an automatic template of an application that looks at the Business Central data fields and automatically builds and formats an application for you. So let's see what that looks like to create a flow in Power Automate and to create a simple application in Power Apps. So this is the interface for Power Automate in my web browser, and you'll notice that I have two flows at the top here. The first is called BC Items, and the second is called BC Open Orders. And let's take a look at items. I'm going to edit my Power Automate flow, and this is what a flow looks like. In this case, my trigger is a manual trigger, so I'll click a button to start this flow. This flow will then call the Business Central API, and so I have pasted in the API endpoint to retrieve items from Business Central. Once it retrieves those items, it will parse the JSON data that is returned by the API, and it can convert it into a table, which it can then actually save to a OneDrive shared folder. So once I run this, I'll click on the Run button here, Run Flow, and now that flow is running. So behind the scenes, it's retrieving data from Business Central, and it is saving a file on my OneDrive share. So if I refresh my OneDrive, we see that a file called bcitems.csv was created. So for example, if you want to extract the item information from Business Central, and maybe you want to send it to an e-commerce website, maybe you want to send it to a third-party business partner that's helping you sell your inventory, I can then click on that CSV file, and you can see the actual data retrieved from Business Central. So with a few clicks in your Power Automate flow, you can retrieve the data and send it just about anywhere you want with whatever connector is available from Power Automate. So that's just one example. Another example, if I go back to my flows here, is let's say that we want to retrieve the open orders from Business Central and save those to our OneDrive share so that every morning the sales team can review the open orders. Rather than them having to log into Business Central, run a report, something like that, we can actually retrieve the open orders from Business Central, perform the exact same action using a Business Central API to format our data, create a CSV file, and save it to our OneDrive folder. So let's take a look at what that looks like when we run our BC Open Orders flow. I'll just click on Run, choose to run flow, and then if I go over to my OneDrive share, that quickly Power Automate has retrieved data from Business Central via the API, has created a CSV file, and it's available for me to view. And you can schedule that Power Automate flow to run as often as you want at any time of the day. So here I can see that I have orders for the School of Fine Art, a Datum Corporation, and the sales team can then review those open orders, see if there's a delay, an inventory shortage, and follow up on those and contact their customers. Next, we have Power Apps. Power Apps is an entirely different product in the Power Platform family that allows you to create custom, visually rich applications based on your Business Central data. And Power Apps actually has some additional connectors to the BC data that make it even easier to retrieve data from Business Central. So in this case, I built a very simple application called a model app. I told Power Apps where my data was, had it connect to my Business Central tenant. It read all of the data available, and based on that data, it actually created this application for me without any intervention on my behalf. It saw that I was pointing to customer information in Business Central, and it formatted a mobile application that allowed me to view Business Central data automatically. And so here we see a BC customers application. It saw that I was retrieving customers. It knew that I had a customer ID, a customer name, and address fields, and it provided a layout for this mobile application. So if I click on my play button here to preview the app, you can see that I can view this application in my browser. I can scroll down, see my different customers, and I can even click on this button to view the details for this record. And obviously this isn't a cleaned up application yet. I haven't modified any of the fields, but based on that application wizard, I have, in just a few minutes, I've created a custom application in Power Apps based on Business Central data retrieved from the BC APIs. And that's just a quick demonstration of the things you can do in Power Automate and Power Apps with Business Central data using the Business Central APIs as a non-developer. Well, thank you very much for attending our session on real-world uses for Business Central APIs for the non-developer. I hope we gave you some ideas about how you can use the Business Central APIs and creative ways to retrieve Business Central data and share it within your organization, whether it's for reporting, a Power Automate flow, or a Power App.